The Late Morning Program with Nam Ras Podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. You're listening to the Nam Ras Podcast, the #1 Hare Krishna podcast in the world. We're so happy to have Swami Padmanabha Maharaj here on with us.
Howdy, whoa.
Bright and early.
For appearance number, what is it?
5, Maharaj?
Yeah. Do we have a prize or trophy or something?
Yeah, that's good.
We should do that.
We should do an award.
Okay. For NAMI awards or something?
For being, tolerant of me to ask about all kinds of different subject matters. But thank you, Marge, for joining us again.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. 5th time. You have to explain to the audience why you are so biased and have me over and over again.
Well, I think the audience will see
Still you
why.
have hope on me. You have hope. The first 4 were a failure. Let's go to the 5th one. Maybe he will make it in this.
Yeah, I mean, I just love your perspective on things. I think you have a lot to offer the Vaishnava community. That's why, giving you a platform, and you're a dear friend. And I think we have great conversations, and this is going to be another one. But this is the first in person.
Yeah.
Wow, that's true. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, everything's been remote.
You just said this thing about the friend, and it just reminded me of something that Maharaj was mentioning yesterday, which was you expressed like surprise that sannyasis could have friends. Is that how the first episode begins? Or?
Yes, that was the kickstart to the whole saga. Yeah.
So I was on a boat to Navadvip, and this other Maharaj, his name was Varaha Maharaj. I don't know if you know him. Bhaktivedanta Varaha Maharaj. He was coming this way, and I was going to go see Tyagi Maharaj in Navadvip, and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" He's American, the Varaha Maharaj. He's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going to go see a friend." And he's like, "Who?" And I was like, "Tyagi Maharaj at, Chaitanya Saraswati." He's like, "Sannyasis don't have friends. He can't be your friend." And I was like,
"Oh, okay." Serious. It wasn't like he was like,
I don't know if he might have been joking, but that stuck with me. It was like, okay, I'm just going to go see him, but he's not my friend.
You're passing each other in boats, you can't like ask for clarification. You can't be like, "What do you mean?" You're just like, "Sannyasis can't have friends." And
so that's where that thing came from.
Thanks for the clarification. There's a background story to this.
The background story.
Maharaj, you don't agree that sannyasis can't have friends?
With all respect to our dear Varaha Maharaj, that I don't know him, but yeah, I respectfully disagree. And I'm friends with Tyagi Maharaj, so I know that he's okay with that, and I'm okay with that either. Also, not only okay, as I told you yesterday, if I have to choose between being a sannyasi and having friends, is if one excludes the other. Here you have my sannyas clothes, and I remain with my friends.
Yeah. Do you know that story of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, of being asked, he was seeing a guest, and later his disciples were asking him, "Srila Prabhupada, who was that? Was that your godbrother?" Do you know this story?
No.
So, March, have you heard this story? So I think this was in Vrindavan. I may be getting the details wrong, but Srila Prabhupada had an audience with a gentleman. They met, they talked, they laughed, whatever, and then he left, and some of Prabhupada's disciples who were serving him, they're really curious. Like, we've never seen this person before. Who is this person? So they were asking, "Srila Prabhupada, was that one of your godbrothers?" Prabhupada said, "No." Was that a life member? No. Was that they went through a list of whatever preconceived categories they had of like species of people that would come and talk to Prabhupada. And then finally, I think this is the way I heard the story. The list was exhausted, and the categories were all like, and they said, "Well, Prabhupada, who was that?" And Prabhupada, in this kind of maybe playful annoyance, said, "He was my friend." I love that story, right?
It's just a friend.
Just a friend. Like, what's the big deal? Like, can I just like chat with my friend? It was just so interesting that, I mean, I don't want to make too much of the story, but it was like they had these categories, and friend was one of them.
And I would say that to have friends, especially if you are, I don't know, sannyasi. I mean, on the contrary, sometimes you say a sannyasi cannot have friends. I will make the case, if a sannyasi do not have friends, that's quite dangerous for keeping your sannyas vows in place, in the sense that also you need some intimacy, some rapport, some close connection and support and sharing in confidence, as we were talking yesterday. So if you are a guru, if you are a leader, you need to have some back and forth with peers also, because if not, it tends to become too pyramidal, and you end up being in the top of it, and everyone else down kijai, and there's no like, you lose taste for connection to equals. So I will really make a whole campaign pro friendship in that connection.
Pro friendship. Well, how can sometimes it's said like sannyasis are maybe gurus, but maybe sannyasis specifically are meant to be like friends to the whole world or something. How can you be friends to the whole world, a friend to the whole world, if you don't have friends that are nourishing you, right? So I'm into your campaign.
Thank you so much. We are two already. You joined Namrata?
Yes.
Where do I send a contribution?
We'll send the link after in the comment section. But yeah, totally agree. Agree, because if not, we are dehumanizing people. And sometimes people have this weird idea that sannyasis are kind of a separate species and they don't need friends, they don't need this and that, and they live in their own category. But I will say, I mean, I'm sannyasi for 15 years and we are human beings also. I mean, I'm not one to talk for every sannyasi on the earth, but I will say we're human beings like you are, just separate natures, some different, but still we need friends, we need connection, affection, intimacy. Yeah,
sometimes we maybe imagine sannyasis to be like superhuman beings, and then we lose that, right? Like we skip over the human part.
We had a conversation with Namras a few days ago via Facebook thread, right?
Oh, yes. So I was just appreciating
further clarification.
I was just appreciating the 5 sannyasis that had come to my house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, 5 sannyasis. It's amazing. Thank you. It was great. And then
Maharaj spoiled.
I'm appreciating your wife also, by the way, because that's no joke having like 5 sannyasis in your house and
So I wrote it on Facebook, and then Maharaj wrote a long clarification about how all the Vaishnavas that came to my house are exalted, and someone even wrote, your children are more exalted than those sannyasis. It was like
oh God bless Facebook, right?
Yeah. Anyway, Maharaj, explain your point that you made there.
Wait, so you didn't say the children?
No, Maharaj didn't say that. He just said
that your children are more exalted than us sannyasis.
Yeah, but Maharaj wrote, he wanted to clarify, like.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that, I mean, I know there's a culture of respect to the sannyas ashram, but at the same time, I will argue there has to be a culture of respect to everyone, to every Vaishnava.
Yeah.
And not necessarily thinking that because someone is a sannyasi, that person is necessarily more advanced or closer to Krishna or more surrender. It can be the case, but it may not be the case. I mean, we know so many exalted Vaishnavas. Srivas Pandit was not a sannyasi, and I wouldn't say he was not using his mind, body, and words in Krishna's service,
right?
As much as I do. On the contrary, sometimes we take it. My point is, we take for granted, okay, sannyasi equals almost pure devotee or superhero, and the problem is when we as sannyasis step into that template, like, okay, I have to play superhero for the world or for the community, and it becomes impossible to sustain, or one may have one's own struggles, but I'm supposed to play the perfect one to the yatra, to the community. So I start to develop this dualistic performative thing. I show myself as perfect, so everyone's faith is okay. And I have my own struggles, and I'm not sharing them with anyone because I'm supposed to be a superhero.
You've already been placed on the pedestal, so now you can't.
Yeah, and all that happening without any bad intention, without very sincere desire to serve everyone, but ends up sometimes, not always, but in pretty dysfunctional scenarios. So I've seen that quite a lot. So I'm just more like preventive. And from being a sannyasi, saying that, I think there is some strength in that. Okay, that is a sannyasi, like not over idealizing the sannyas ashram. So I feel part of my sannyas dharma is to.
It's so subtle though, right? Because on the one hand, there's something really beautiful about appreciating the other ashram. Yeah. Like as grihastas.
This should be reciprocal also.
But it should be it should be reciprocal, right?
Because if I say, I appreciate you, Maharaj, thank you. Yeah, keep appreciating the sannyas ashram. And I will over-appreciate the sannyas ashram. Right. So, no, it has to be back and forth. Ultimately, Mahaprabhu will say, Naham Vipro Nachana, and eventually say, Yatir Ba. I'm not a sannyasi. He was sannyasi, but in a substantial sense, that's not
my real identity.
I'm a servant. We are all servants. So in that sense, respect is to be offered for it. And we have seen so much sometimes, unfortunately, abuse or dysfunctional scenarios coming from the sannyas ashram.
Yeah.
And many times I will say part of that is the over idealization and putting sannyasis in a pedestal and over idealizing them.
Almost like, yeah.
And whatever comes from that person has to be taken as absolute, and that opens the door for cultish scenarios sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like did that all come from Srila Prabhupada's, the culture around those years where the Srila Prabhupada was basically the only kind of senior sannyasi, and then everything that he did, like even like post his disappearance, the way gurus were worshipped and Vyasa Puja and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's part of it. I think maybe even, this is my hot take, maybe more even influential than that was when that sort of first and second wave of sannyasis that Prabhupada initiated into sannyas.
Yeah.
That, you know, the whole, my understanding of the whole sort of vision for that was not so much the kind of the pedestal thing, you know, but more the kind of like, okay, like go out and, you know, go out and preach and be like.
But they were put on pedestals.
But they were very quickly from the very first ones.
You remember in one time, not for all, but he said to many of them, I know you won't be able to keep your vows, but you nonetheless, please do it. It's an emergency. And like he was clear about, okay, it may not be. So in that sense, he was not over idealizing.
There were two really young boys, as Prabhupada would call them, right? Young men. I'm guessing they were like early 20s. And they were really enthusiastic. I'm getting this from a memoir written by Hayagriva Prabhu, who we've talked about, is like, we love his writing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But he writes about these two young men. They came to see Prabhupada and they were like insistent on sannyas to the point that the other disciples were even like, these guys are like, they got the whole wrong mood. They're like, and Prabhupada was also, according to this telling, very skeptical. And then they said, we want to go preach in Vietnam. And Prabhupada said, Vietnam? Well, the war is happening there. Okay. And he gave him sannyas.
Yeah. So it was particular
very
situation.
Situational.
Prabhupada was a very empowered personality. So yeah, we should be careful to follow the footsteps, but not to imitate, no, which is not the exact same thing.
What was the story of you taking sannyas? I've never heard. Like, I know yesterday you mentioned, which is the first time I've heard you say that, is that you waited for 10 years.
Yeah, actually, I mean, when I was teenager, even before meeting the devotees, when I joined, I was 19. So before meeting them, I never had a girlfriend. So that was weird enough. I mean, nor boyfriend. I'm not gay, although I don't have any problem. I have friends from every group. But so it was weird for me as a teenager. All my friends have their cup. But I was like, that's not for me. But at the time, the idea was not present. Like, okay, I'm a monk. I have a monk template. So eventually, when I met the devotees at 19, I saw like the possibility of monastic life, the brahmacharis, and I said, okay, that I saw myself there.
It's like a natural.
That's me. Yeah,
natural
it was like
fit.
not forced.
Yeah.
Because sometimes devotees come and like, Maharaj, how is your sannyas ashram, your struggle with the vows? And it's like, no, I have no struggle. It's okay. It's natural. It's like if I ask you as a grihasta, how's your struggle? Are you tempted to become a sannyasi? Are you tempted? No, I'm okay, as a grihasta. Right? So anyhow, it was natural. And at that time, my guru at that time, he was kind of starting to suggest and throw hints, even almost from the first year. I mean, I was very young. I was 20 years. I'm happy I didn't accept those hints immediately at that age, because how mature you are at 20, 21, 22 to accept the lifelong vow. But anyhow, it was every year like sannyas. I remember once he was sitting and giving cookies to everyone, and everyone will go and he will say something. And to me, he gave me a cookie and told me, the sannyas cookie. And I was like 22. And I ate the cookie. Maybe I should have kept the cookie. and I remember I ate the cookie, and a few intense dynamics came like a trailer. Okay, this was sannyas ashram is about. So anyhow, as I told you, when I was receiving these hints first year, second year, I talked with a friend of mine, sannyasi at that time, and we are very close friends for more than 20 years. And I asked him like, this is happening. I'm being suggested. I've been hinted. It's pretty clear. And he told me, why don't you wait for 10 years? Why don't you think about it for a decade? No, give it a thought for a decade. For me, it was, that makes sense.
That's so cool.
So I took.
that.
I love that too.
It came like very natural. Like his reply and my reaction was.
And he wasn't being cheeky. He was serious. He said,
and
take 10
we
years.
lived together, and he's one of my closest friends, so he knows me, and he said, take 10 years. I mean, he knew. He told me then. I knew that you were going to do it, but I wanted you to settle and ground yourself and process the whole thing and have some experience, be older. So I really appreciate all that. So yeah, eventually after 10 years, I took sannyas. Still young. It was 9 years, not 10, that passed. So when I was 28, I accepted sannyas. So that's still pretty young. On Nrsimha Chaturdasi. So this last Nrsimha Chaturdasi, last week or 2 weeks, was like 15 years from that day.
Wow. Our Guru Maharaj also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
1982, Nrsimha Chaturdasi.
82.
Yeah.
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 Powerful
Because
day.
I heard that Prabhupada liked to give sannyas on Nrsimha
On
Chaturdasi.
Nrsimha.
So my
really?
guru at that time, I was supposed to take sannyas 3 days after in Buenos Aires, in the city. We had the farm, the danda was prepared, the yajna was there. And 3 days before, we were in another state of the country called Santa Fe, which means Holy Faith. And we were in a garage. He was giving a lecture in a very informal place. We were 5, 6 of us. And he's talking about Nrsimha Chaturdasi because it was Nrsimha Chaturdasi. And says, and Prabhupada like to give sannyas on Nrsimha Chaturdasi. And he looks at this other sannyasi friend of mine. Do you have new sannyasi clothes here? And I was like, what's going on?
Like, is this happening? What?
Oh, wow.
And he said, yes. And he told me, I never traveled with new sannyasi clothes, but I just happened to have them. So it was very synchronicity there.
Yeah.
And I ended up receiving the mantra and the name that day in a garage, very unique circumstance. But I like it, felt very spontaneous. And I really felt, that's an interesting thing I think we shared the other day, because as many of you may know, my first guru at that time eventually, unfortunately, ended up having some problems, sexual abuse and stuff like that. And at the time he gave me sannyas. Now, going back in retrospective, we realized that at that time he started to have some illegal situations, so to say. But when he gave me the mantra for sannyas, I really felt the descent, divine descent and epiphany and connection. So for me, it's also like, okay, Guru Tattva expresses itself in very mysterious ways. And I was open and receptive, so Krishna made that arrangement.
Wow.
So I received sannyas that day. But it was funny because I received the name, my sannyas name at that time was Bhakti Vedanta Padmanabha Maharaj, and the mantra. But I was told, you don't tell your new name to anyone till you do the yajna 3 days after. So I was 3 days dressing as a sannyasi in the programs, and everyone was like, Maharaj, so I cannot tell you.
Someone told Maharaj. Like,
So I was Maharaj.
Just Maharaj.
And it was like 3 days of secrecy, and some devout friends of mine, come on, tell me your name. I cannot tell you.
Wow.
3 days after I received, May 10th was the time, the danda and the yajna and so on.
Yeah.
Any regrets about any of that?
About what?
Anything as far as sannyas or...
It's a heavy question.
I know.
We're just chatting. It's just the three of us and, a million people watching
I think
on
Maharaj
YouTube, but-
understands that everything I say is from a good place,
Yeah,
but
no,
and
right.
Totally.
Yes.
No,
But-
no
Yeah.
regrets. No regret. Of course, I'm not saying I've done everything perfectly and who is free from defects, as Krishna says in the Gita. Every action is accompanied by some fault. But no, I seem looking back, seeing the bigger picture, zooming out the whole timeline, everything was meant to happen, and I'm blessed and grateful and do not regret anything in the past. I've learned a lot from my first guru that, again, I had to take a distance because of these unfortunate circumstances. But it's not black and white. It doesn't mean, okay, I didn't receive anything good. It was all a hoax or anything. So everything in its place, right? Okay, this was good. I learned that. This was not good. I have to learn from that also.
Yeah.
I have to learn from everything. So that's my duty as a disciple, as a student. I have to remain in a learning spirit. No? Whatever is going on outside, catastrophe, celebration, joy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you have alluded to, I think already, sort of some of the bumps in the road on your journey, and you've invoked the heavy G word. In this case, not God, but Guru. So I think it's maybe one of the elephants in the room for those who know a little bit about your story, but maybe not the full thing. I would like to ask you about that. But before that, can I just indulge us for a second? Because I'm feeling a little awkward.
Okay.
This is, I think, the first time that I'm like the only one wearing tilak on this. And, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, you know, too sort of like, you know, anyway, everyone knows I have like a weird sense of humor, but it's like one of those things where you like, you know, you show up to the event and you're like, I thought we were all going to wear like, you ever show up to like an event and you're like just dressed wrongly. You're like, I thought we were all like going to be in suits. And
Maharaj probably can't relate with that, but
I know Maharaj has like a pretty standard outfit. He doesn't
always
really
wearing weird stuff.
It reminds me of like you know, like women go out and they're like, I thought we were all wearing heels. Like, why are you wearing flats? I don't know. It's a weird example, but you get my point, right?
Yeah.
And I feel especially weird about that because I have my own weird relationship with tilak.
Okay.
Where it does feel like, I'm not going to lie, there are times where it's very natural and I won't say it's a part of my sadhana these days, but it feels very natural in terms of like, okay, I'm going to the temple, I'm going to see like my Guru Maharaj, whatever. And it just feels... And then there's also a sort of a performative aspect to it. And today, I have to say, I was like kind of expecting that the three of us would be like, you know,
Performing.
we would all
joking.
No, we would all have our tilaks, you know, it's like,
Of course.
it would like line up and like now I'm the odd man out. So is there, am I overthinking this or is there something else that we should talk about? Like what's up with this?
Let's begin with Namrasa. Why you are not wearing tilak? I'm just following the footsteps of my podcast.
You both have really nice tilak tans, by the way, because that's also a thing.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't notice that.
And you
until
have
now.
one too, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we were leaving the house. Well, we were leaving the house to get here, and Maharaj like made me notice that I wasn't wearing tilak. And then I said, "Okay, it's fine. Like sometimes I wear it, sometimes I don't." But Maharaj has not been wearing tilak consistently in programs and things, and I wanted to ask
That sounds a little creepy. It sounds like you have like a little like notebook that you're like taking. You're like, day 7, Maharaj is still not wearing tilak. What's going on?
No. To be fair,
doing like an
people have
ethnography.
asked me though. People have asked
people
me
have.
because they know Maharaj and I are fairly close, and they're asking why doesn't Maharaj wear tilak like when he gives classes on the Zoo on computer, on the internet and stuff. But yeah, why don't we go into that?
Totally. This is a totally like weird direction, unplanned, but let's just do
The
it.
main theme of our podcast.
Yeah. No, but I think
You make the clickbait thumbnail with that topic.
Oh, yeah.
Probably that will get
Sannyasi stops wearing tilak. No, but okay, but to be serious, Marge, when we're talking about sannyas, like you don't fit into like the template of a sannyasi, like the template sannyas template, and I think that's one thing. But there's other things that we can go into about that, which is it's interesting. When you've explained it to me, I found it very interesting. So maybe we can go into that.
What will be for you the sannyas template?
Like, I don't know, acts a certain way. Like we were talking about, it perfect. Puts on this like portrayal of advanced devotee and looks a certain way, acts a certain way, and if you're an ISKCON, you have to speak a certain way. You can't kind of be on the outskirts of a certain philosophical. If you can't talk about certain things.
Cannot write the book of Bhakti being inherent or not.
Right? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Sorry for that.
So kind of an orthodoxy.
An orthodoxy, yeah, you could say that.
I'm not ironing my clothes. That's also out of the standard
Silk
picture. No,
okay, let's not
silk.
get into that. House, car.
Anyhow, so yeah, I mean, it's nothing on purpose. It's just the way I am. I remember last year, I was, I was in Switzerland, and there's one Vaishnavi there. I was in Ananda ashram, this ashram in the Alps in Switzerland, very nice place. And there was one Vaishnavi there that said, Maharaj, I don't know if I can ask you this, but I'm studying palmistry, and I would like to study the lines of your hands. So for that, I need to, I have to paint your hands with something, and you have to put your hands on paper, and then, I don't know, the whole thing. So can I do that? She was respectfully asking, and I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. So someone took me a picture with the hands like that.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. And then one devotee, Bhima Karma, he's a palmist, and he somehow saw the picture and sent me some thoughts, regarding what he saw in my hands. And one of those things were like, okay, your nature is kind of how to say, not subscribing to the status quo, not like rebel without a cause, but naturally you won't fit into the standard way of doing things. That's your way of doing things, like by nature. So it's not, again, my point is, I'm not planning okay, now I will do this and I will stop doing that. So I'll. You're
not trying to be a contrarian for the sake of like.
To be honest, no. To be honest, I don't like that. I mean, I really don't like conflict. Although some people may think that I'm like all for the debate and like, it really creeps me and it creates anxiety. It's disturbing. I prefer to. In the Enneagram, I'm the number 9, which is kind of the peace.
I was just about to ask you what your Enneagram type. Yeah.
Wait, who else is a number 9 that we know?
I mean, Krishnagi is a number 9.
The 9 is a peacemaker.
I think our Guru Maharaj is a number 9.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Very controversial to type your Guru Maharaj on the Enneagram. We're probably going to get some comments about that. But by nature, you think you avoid conflict.
Trying to be like a harmonizer.
Yeah,
Not to play the saintly anything. That's my nature. And when that's not happening, it's really anxiety for me. But anyhow, going back to the topic is, but I tend to do things in the way I tend to do things, which happen to be not in the normal way everyone else does them. So what to do? I'm weirdo. And regarding sannyas and not fitting in, quote unquote, with the sannyas template, also for me, that's an important point. I think we were talking last year about that sometimes when we speak about the sannyasi, we kind of there's a fixed box on how a sannyasi is supposed to be. But when you speak about the grihasta, there's so many ways of being a grihasta.
Yeah,
but
we were
sannyasi,
talking about that.
you have to be like that. And it's like, why? Why so reductionistic for a sannyasi? You just only can be in this few ways, and you can be a sannyasi or another in this. So I think there should be a place for the individuation and the expression of
Can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
Yeah.
Couldn't there be an argument made that by nature, any kind of monastic order, where monasticism is like the primary sort of the primary kind of quality of that identity, right? Like where too much sort of variety or individuality would cut against the very nature of monasticism, where it's it's all about sort of effacing the ego, being as simple as possible, right? Like why shave the head? Why wear the same, kind of simple cloth? Whereas with grihastas, you don't. There's no such like need, because there's no such like need for monasticism. Although in ISKCON there was a time in ISKCON history where I would say virtually grihastas and were monks, or were expected to be monks. But in a sort of more traditional breakdown, right? Isn't there something to be said for like monasticism kind of aligns with this idea of effacing individuality and kind of being like almost sort of anonymous?
Yes and no. I will say my personal experience. Of course, I get your point and I understand, but I will say that still a monk, whether it's sannyasi, brahmachari, in any tradition, you are an individual. So like if ego effacing doesn't mean a denial of individuation, a denial of the development of your personality in service. For me, they are very different things. And when I study the life of different sannyasis that I know, they are not the same person, so to say. They're not like cut to the same size, so to say. Yeah. So, and of course, I agree that being a monastic, I personally, I'm a monk, but I'm trying to be careful not to over-identify myself as a monk. So for me, being a monk is not my primary identity. Yeah. My primary identity, again, as Mahaprabhu will teach, I'm not a sannyasi. He say that. I'm not. What does it mean? What does it mean that a sannyasi says, I'm not a sannyasi? Imagine if I tell now this to you, like, I'm not a sannyasi actually. So everyone was like, what does it mean? You are leaving your vows? No, I'm still a sannyasi, but I'm not a sannyasi.
Nam will just cut out that one part and make it a real. That's like ultimate clickbait.
That's it. Yeah, I'm not a sannyasi. Padmanabha Swami.
But what does it mean on a deeper level to say?
For me it means, I'm a monk on some level of social dynamics, and according to my acquired nature in this lifetime, that connects with the sannyas ashram, but in a deeper level, I'm beyond that. I don't project to be a sannyasi for eternity. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava ideal, nobody of us will be sannyasis in Golok Vrindavan. So better as a sannyasi, I don't get too over attached to my sense, to my abhiman, to my sense of identity as a sannyasi. That will get in the way of my ultimate.
Are there no sannyasis in Goloka Vrindavan?
There may come like a Durvasa Muni and disturb the whole thing and then leave.
Right.
No? Right?
Just only guest appearances by Durvasa Muni. But no one has like an ontologically eternal identity as a sannyasi in Goloka Vrindavan.
I mean, so many, everything can happen, but in general, that's not the idea.
Right.
And all the sannyasis in our tradition that we know about their eternal identities,
it's not as a sannyasi there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel dumb asking the tilak thing, but people have asked me that.
We're getting there.
Yeah, people have asked me that. That's why I'm asking.
No, it's just perfect. We're getting there. But in general, beyond the tilak, in terms of, as you say, me not fitting in into the sannyas template so much. Again, I'm more concerned with me being my own person, if you will, not from an ego place, but just I'm an individual and I want to develop and explore my individuality in service of Krishna, in service of others. No, for me, it's radical personalism. Right? Like I'm a person and I want to be as a person as I can be in service with all that it implies. So going to the tilak thing, I mean, I use tilak always. And I keep using tilak, although you may not see it. I have tilak. Every morning I do achaman, and I put Ganga water and some Radhakund tilak. But not that much. It's just mostly water and some Radhakund tilak. So I mark everything. Write the names of my Istadev on my chest, all that stuff. But it's not visible. But it's there. No? So for me, that's the most important thing. I'm doing it. Krishna knows it's there. And why I've stopped making it visible, if that's the question, to be honest, the main reason will be I'm in a stage in my life where I'm reducing some of the external signs of my affiliation to invite people to get to know me for who I am as a person. Instead of, okay, you have the tilak, you don't have the tilak, you are this, you are not that. I'm more interested, okay, come to me personally and ask me whatever you need to ask me and if you want to appreciate me or criticize me, let that be for who I am as a person and not for external sign. I have anything against tilak. I love tilak and I put it every day in that way. And also that may be the main reason. And another level will be also I mean most of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas know who I am. So sometimes tilak is more like a symbol of to know which lineage you are affiliated with.
I was just thinking that,
That has a practical purpose, but almost everyone knows which is my affiliation in Bhakti Vinod Parivar. And in terms of interacting with other circles outside the Gaudiya community, for me, there is a place to not use tilak. Sometimes it may get in the way of some interaction with people that may feel a little like strange with me having my face painted with tilak. So those are secondary reasons. Again, my main reason is more like an invitation to the other person to get to know me for who I am beyond these externals. And that has taken me even to consider, as I told you, maybe the possibility of at some point even not using my sannyas robes and wearing normal clothes is also, especially that's another different tattva. but I was open to that, but not so much also because sometimes to wear these clothes also create this sense of saintliness.
Yeah.
Now there comes the saintly person, and that may take me to take myself too seriously. So as I told you a few months ago, I said I was not traveling, not giving lectures, just on my own. I will wear just secular clothes for 2 weeks to see how I feel. Yeah. Not so much to other people, but to see what's my reaction. If I start to freak out and like, I'm not as saintly as I thought, what's going on? My bowels are collapsing.
Yeah.
So I put myself to test. Now, I think that's important for me to keep integrity. So I did that, but it was fine. So it was the same. That's my point. I didn't see myself as, I'm a different person now. Because I don't want to be a person based on my clothes. That's my point. I don't want people to... If I show up like this, if I show up with a t-shirt and a shorts, I mean, I'm the same person.
Yeah. So well, it's funny because I don't know if they have this expression, if there's a Spanish version of this expression, but in English, in American English, priests are often called, like Christian priests are called like the man of the cloth. Like, oh, he's a man of the cloth. I don't know if you've ever heard. No. And it's so interesting to hear you say that because in a very literal sense, it's like it puts you into a box of like, oh, he's a priest. And even in the context, it would be like, oh, but you're a man of the cloth. Like, but what does it mean to be the person within the cloth, and like does the cloth define? And that's really these are all really interesting, important questions.
Yeah, because the cloth itself can become a mask.
Yeah.
Again, I put the cloth, so therefore I'm saintly, quote unquote. For me or for others, I show up like that. So being with quote unquote ordinary clothes forces me to keep my integrity, my example for who I am, and to show that with or without clothes. So I feel, I'm not saying that I will do it, and even if I do it, I'm not saying I will never go back to this. For me, that's secondary. That's my point. That's not the primary consideration, although for some may be like, Maharaj, are you okay? You continue as a sannyasi because you are not using the... But sannyasi is an internal idea, commitment to the truth. It's not my cloth, so to say.
It's also really humbling, I have to say, because I mean, I guess I'm the one who started this whole tilak thing, but it's humbling to hear like this idea that like I'm visibly presenting right now. I don't always do this, but I'm visibly presenting with tilak, and like I'm saying, that can be very performative, and there's something very powerful and very humbling about the idea that like your engagement with tilak is for you and for your relationship with Krishna and your relationship as a sadhaka, and it's not visible, right? And so I don't know. There's something right. Sometimes we treat. I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I treat tilak sometimes just very literally cosmetically. It's like, oh, we're about to go out. Okay, hang on, I just put my tilak. I may or may remember to chant a mantra. And it almost like, it makes me forget like, oh, this is part of this like larger process. That's actually not like the presentation of it externally is, not even, I wouldn't even say secondary. I would say it's like almost like tertiary or tangential, right? It's like low on the list.
I'm not doing this. What I'm saying is not like, okay, from now on, everyone should do like I'm doing. I'm not telling anyone anything like, but it's like my own personal journey and inspiration of, again, reducing these externals, which are favorable for bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, tilak is bhava anukul, is favorable for your mood. So I keep doing that, but invisibly, so to say, internally, like decorating my body in front of Krishna. He sees that, so that's still in place. The substantial aspect of it is there, and the other aspect disappears, probably to invite people for a conversation like, why do you wear tilak, Maharaj? And that opens the chance of sharing and getting to know each other in a deeper way, which is what I'm interested in, basically. Right?
Speculating, I had the idea had something to do with, I mean, we talked about this, but had something to do with your guru rejection of your last guru. And because the guru gives the pondra during initiation, so if there's some, maybe it's like a change of that, but if you want to clarify that.
No, it's not related to that, because even after that rejection, I continued using tilak visibly for, I don't know, probably a year or something. So it's not it's not connected to that. It just came naturally as a personal inspiration, part of my journey. Again, it was not, as I say in the beginning, predetermined, prefixed. Okay, in October 2023, no more visible tilak. Let's enter into this stage of mystery, and it just came. Just happened. When I'm in India, I use tilak visibly, also like respecting some cultural sensibilities. Some place that I know people would really get disturbed by me not having tilak. I put tilak again. I putting it every day, invisibly. Now visibly does make a difference.
Sure.
That may disturb someone, or if I go to some event, like probably the one we'll go today later, I may put visible tilak. It's not that it's a problem. On the contrary, right? Just,
I hope we can get into some stuff, but just the last thing on this is I just want to share, like, I really appreciate also, and with the tilak example, but with so many things, this sort of like what I'm getting is like a very kind of like balanced human approach to things, and this and maybe it's obvious, but I just want to say it, that like, it's so refreshing to hear someone kind of avoiding falling into these traps of like, it's like you have to put like visible tilak on all the time, otherwise whatever, or then going the other extreme and being like, I'm going to campaign to like eliminate tilak from, it's just like, can we just be like, just like kind of like normal. I don't know what the word is. Like, it's a terrible word, but
normal sounds good.
my wife always like she doesn't like that I use like that word normal, because she's like, it's
What's
like,
normal?
What's normal? And what,
Yeah.
But like, can we just be like sort of chill about things? I don't know.
Chill, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you use the word human.
Human,
Not to advocate the greatest human being or anything like that, but I feel an importance to balance humanity with transcendence, as we were talking yesterday, as I talk in my last book, Radical Personalism. Like sometimes we overemphasize being spiritual and transcendental, and we've become humanly dysfunctional, especially with the sannyas, as you were saying in the beginning. The sannyas template is you're over there at the top of the hierarchy, so to say, at the top of the chain food, whatever. And it's dehumanizing. If you over-idealize someone, you are dehumanizing that person. You are putting them alone, isolated, in a peak of a mountain by themselves. And that's not human. And if you accept that, you are dehumanizing yourself. So I for the sake of my vows and the service I would like to perform to others, I try to keep that balance, because for me, humanity is so important. Sensitivity, psychology, imbalance, emotionality, honoring properly our physical body in service. And as I said yesterday, our ultimate goal is the Nara Lila of Krishna. Nara Lila means fully human and fully divine. Not only fully divine, fully human as well. So if I'm not fully human, and as we say yesterday, I'm trying to enter Golok with a half-baked, dysfunctional humanity, maybe there will be a purgatory at the entrance. You go there for therapy for a few months, and then you can enter the Lila, so to say. So yeah, I find it so grounding and so balanced and so humbling also, again, so I don't take myself so seriously. Like, it seems I'm a superhero. No, like, the goal is not to be a superhero. No. First be a devotional human being before trying to be a devotional superstar or superhero or rock star, or so all these designations. Human being sounds good project, so to say.
Bodhi Maharaj kind of made the similar point about trying to become something, else, but then I think he was making the point of trying to be, the thing to strive for is devotion to Krishna and seeing how much attraction for Krishna you can have, instead of seeing someone if they are. I think what the context was about sannyasis. He was making that point, right?
Yeah. A similar point. I'm just it's escaping me now, but it's like, I think it was the similar idea of like just like really going to the basics of our aspiration, like to have that relationship with Krishna, and like to accept what's favorable towards that, and to avoid what's not. Just like kind of breaking it down to that. And,
I remember him saying that. It just breaks it down to that point.
Yeah. And it sometimes also is tied to how we use words. Like yesterday we were speaking about sadhu sangha, the word sadhu, and I've heard many times the words limiting the application of the word sadhu to sannyasis. So, now the sadhus have come to the program.
Yes.
Sometimes sannyasis are only Hindu sannyasis or Hindu acharyas.
Really?
They are the sadhus. So it creates this kind of dichotomy, or as we yesterday quoted the Gita, Krishna says, Apichet Sudaracharan son sadhureva samamtavya. For me, a sadhu is someone even of very bad behavior, but who is very sincere in trying to surrender exclusively to me. That's a sadhu. So everyone can be a sadhu in potential if you're honest and sincere.
Yeah.
So
I feel I've definitely gotten into that. Like, I grew up like from Chandri's age, seeing
that's what I replied to in your post. What I reply?
Yeah. Although anyway, I just wanted to.
He keeps arguing. He's stubborn.
I just wanted to appreciate.
No, there is something beautiful about the culture of
the culture of that. Yeah. But I appreciate Maharaj's, from his association, just like kind of like stepping out of this box that I've had my thinking in. Stepping out of that box and just like widening my horizon of thinking.
Not denying what you say, but just keeps expanding a little bit, like including some other considerations.
Yeah, and you were saying you were kind of protecting me too when you made that comment that people might think that that's what I think of sannyas, that only sannyasis are the ones that are offering their body, mind, and words to Krishna, not anybody else, but. It can be anybody, but
Yeah.
I was assuming that's what those sannyasis are doing, so that's why I made that
Oh,
appreciation.
no, that's beautiful. But sometimes, again, we have seen sannyasi who unfortunately
Yeah.
didn't show that example. And if you just take for granted every sannyasi is doing that, then it can open the door for abuse or even for over-idealization, and then the collapse of faith when you realize that you were over-idealizing someone on a level that it was not realistic. And
Right. You're setting them and yourself up for like a kind of disappointment.
So it's only to protect everyone, to protect the sannyasi, to not be over-idealized, to protect your faith, to not be an over-idealizing faith,
Yeah.
to keep it more, again, human, normal, realistic, down to earth. I mean, I think we need lots of grounding work.
I heard something recently about Swami Vivekananda, who is obviously very different lineage, different school of Vedanta, all that. But in the point I think can apply, and it was during his visit in the late, I guess it was the late 1800s. He was quite a sensation, and actually I don't know if a lot of people know this, but at a certain point he was really like, he was the guest of some very, as we might say, like some very sort of influential, affluent, influential, kind of high class Americans. And one of the challenges or frustrations was that a lot of times they were idealizing him and his presence in their home, but in a way that was also like, I mean, it's a strong word, but I would say it was like fetishizing. And very different context. And I get it. But then when I heard this point, I was thinking, wow, we sort of do that too sometimes, right? Like there's something about, like very subtly, and I'm not saying you are doing this, but there's something very subtly that can go from appreciation to idealization to even a sort of fetishization, right? And like sometimes we see that even like in our devotional communities where we're sort of like hovering around these sannyasis and we're like all like, ooh, but it's like a thing. It's like having like a potted plant in your living room. It's like having like a...
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the line between worship and idolatry is delicate,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
If you are worshiping someone, even someone who is, let's say, bona fide, but you can worship someone, over-worship someone. Like some people telling Prabhupada disciples, like, you are Krishna himself at that point. And Krishna, Prabhupada says, stop this nonsense. No, you are going too much. You are over-glorify. You can over-glorify the guru.
Yeah.
In one sense, you can never glorify your guru enough, but there's a way you can over-glorify the guru. No? So also worship, appreciation is beautiful, but you can also fall into idolatry, like over-appreciate or over-conceive the person or glorify things that are not there. I don't know. And many times it has to do with what's wrong with you that you need to do that, actually. Many times it's, I don't want to, instead of following the footsteps of that personality, I just make a big, huge fetish of this and worship, so I don't have to actually do what they are, follow their teachings. I just make a big show of worship. And sometimes it's more an escape of taking the commitment of becoming that person, in the sense of they are giving me an example to follow.
So let me,
Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say the guru is your own potential appearing in front of you. So your guru is showing all that you can become. So how much are we willing to take that commitment and enter into that journey, or we're just, no, it's okay, Guru, I will worship you a lot.
Yeah, it's like
and over glorify you, so you don't ask me to follow in your footsteps, actually. So it can be escapism also, right? Anyhow.
Okay, can we talk about the like, we're talking about guru, the principle of guru tattva, we're talking about following footsteps, and I know you both have this this deep friendship history. So I imagine you've talked about this offline. As someone who's relatively newer, so what folks watching and listening may not realize is we just met.
The two of us
in person just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago. Although from reading your book, which I love, by the way, Radical Personalism, I feel like, when you read someone, you often feel like you've like met them before. So I don't feel like this is our first meeting, but in terms of like meeting in person, it is. And I know from the periphery a little bit of the history, but there are also like huge gaps in it for me. So if it's okay, and feel free to like, share just as much as you want to, but can we talk about sort of this very, to me, unusual to the point of even being bizarre, sort of, situation. We've alluded to it. We said rejection, but we're used to thinking of rejection in terms of a student, for whatever XYZ reason, leaving the teacher, rejecting the teacher even. But in your case, when we say rejection, we mean it the other way around. And it happened in a very sort of bizarrely public way on social media. So I don't want to say more than that because I want you to tell your own story.
It's been 2 years since that public announcement.
Yeah.
So it's another thing to add context here.
Okay. But would you take us through that a little bit? And
Yeah, no problem. It has been quite public, so in one sense, it's not that nobody knows.
right, we're not getting some like exclusive scoop or
more
something.
than-
sorry
This is
for
not
that.
like-
Sorry for that.
More than the events,
Yeah.
how you feel, how you felt about it, how you processed it. Because I personally wouldn't, I can't understand that, like how I would process something like that.
And maybe how you continue to process it, because
Yeah, of course.
I imagine it's not just a one and done kind of in the moment.
And it ties in with the Guru Tattva stuff that's discussed here a lot, as far as what is Guru Tattva and how does Guru Tattva present itself, and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Fasten your seatbelt.
All right. Here we go.
First of all, pleasure to meet you in person now. And what you were mentioning, that people get to know me by reading a book or by listening to my lecture, that happens so often. And that's so strange for me, because I get to meet people like the other day also, oh Maharaj, we're listening to you for some years, or some people like, you've helped me so much. And I'm like, who are you? No, like, you know me a lot. On some level, you know me, but I don't have a clue who you are. So I feel that like, like I have to catch up in the relationship to receive. It's beautiful. It's strange at the same time, because I don't have physical time to catch up with every single 1,000 person, but it's beautiful in its own way. So I just want to mention that point. So going to this situation with my second guru, because as I mentioned before, with my first guru, I ended up like taking a distance from him because of what happened in terms of not only the abuse, and I won't go into the details, although they are, again, clearly public, but especially because of the abuse, of course, but then because of the denial of what happened. That for me, that was even more bizarre. Like something very evident, very clear, and a total like blindness to acknowledge, to hold yourself accountable for what you did. So that was for me like, this is too much, like a blindness and denial to receive feedback from peers, from even disciples, but even from peers. And again, without want to condemn anyone, I really pray and I feel by Krishna's blessing, I'm not being resentful, and I'm not being hateful, and I'm not being even ungrateful. I really want to make clear all the nice things I learned, but also point to the things that were not functional, were dysfunctional, in my opinion. And go beyond my own case. We see these situations playing out in ISKCON, in other places as well. So we need to pay attention to that and know what to do. So in that first guru, I took a distance from him. In the case with my second guru, it was, as you say, the other way around. I was rejected basically by him. And as Namrasa said, no need to go into the details of how happened, what happened. That eventually and unfortunately became public, although it was not my original idea to. I mean, it was a whole month of private communication and struggle, but it ended up becoming public. So there were some statements being made in the way I was rejected that were not true. So I felt compelled to clarify that, and ended up being a public thing.
On social media.
On social media, yeah. So again, I don't hold any resentment. I really feel grateful for many things that I learned from him. But at the same time, I keep my stance in terms of very undeniable experiences that I went through, that I feel this is not healthy. This is not healthy for me. This is not healthy for anyone going through this. This is not healthy for someone serving as guru, having that certain attitudes. And again, it's not pointed to that particular person, but to a certain attitude whenever that happens, even starting with me. So I'm saying all this also as a way of committing myself to not do that, because I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't want to make you have to rehash, but But just to clarify, especially for someone who may be sort of tuning in fresh and doesn't, I think it's important to clarify that like this sort of public rejection on, was it Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook.
Yeah. This wasn't the case, for instance, of a guru saying, hey, you XYZ disciple, your behavior is really bad. You're behaving immorally, illicitly. You're breaking principles.
You're breaking principles.
You're, you know, like, this is purely, you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is purely on sort of like a very, very sort of particular, some might even say a little bit like in the weeds, kind of doctrinal, philosophical disagreement. Yes? No, not even that.
No.
So it's not behavior. It's not this person saying, look, you're not up to snuff as far as like the basics of ethical behavior, so I have to reject you. It's not doctrinal difference. So at the risk of opening a can of worms, like what is it?
Yeah.
Good question.
That's a good question.
I'm asking for myself, but I'm also like, I want to clarify this because when I hear, if I didn't know you, just to be honest, Maharaj, if I didn't know you or know of you or hear about this through Nam, who I have a relationship with, I would be like, well, like this person must have done something really like terrible to be rejected in such a powerful and in such a public way. So there must be something where this person just is so off the rails that the guru had to say like, listen, publicly I'm saying like, I'm severing my tie with you. Like, don't put my name next to yours. But that's not the case here. So like, what's going on?
You're such a good journalist.
I did want to be a journalist at one point in my life. So. Please.
You're fulfilling your desire.
I'm fulfilling that.
Happy to be the object of the fulfillment
of your investigative journalist. No.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, it offers clarification because many devotees have heard that they've thought that, okay, this rejection came from a doctrinal disagreement in terms of, especially connected with my first book, Inherent or Inherited, that I wrote about whether Bhakti is inherent or not in the Jiva and so on. And my guru at the time, he had the same stance I was writing about for decades, but then he changed his stance. So, and I published my book with his approval and blessings at the time. But anyhow, there was some differences of opinion, although I was open to coexist with that difference of opinion. He himself told me at the time, we can have both opinions. It's okay, no problem. Although I came to know later that actually his intention was to not have two opinions, to only have the new one, so to say. But I didn't know that. But anyhow, so my point is, it was not about that.
It wasn't.
No. Somehow, maybe the dynamics in relation to that doctrinal difference triggered something else, which ended up being the quote-unquote cause of rejection. But at the same time, as you said, okay, you didn't behave in a horrible way as to justify the rejection. And I will say no, to be honest. I don't think I did anything terrible and horrible, and I'm like an evil monster that now by being, and maybe someone will say, you are not humble enough, Maharaj, just to say you are an evil monster. It's like, no, that's false humility. Sorry. But probably my guru at the time subjectively perceived that. I don't want to talk for him. I cannot. And to be honest, I don't want to take advantage of this situation. Like, okay, I'm in the Nam Rasa podcast now, so I can say all that I want in my favor and shed bad light on that person and play the victim. And I have my platform here now. I don't want. I'm praying at this precise moment when you were asking the question. For moments, I was closing my eyes. Like, I don't want. I want to keep integrity here. I want to remain grateful, and I want to. I don't want to abuse to be anyhow. But also I want to be truthful. So anyhow, the question is, okay, why you were rejected? Technically speaking, I don't know. In one sense, because people say, so why? Okay, the official accusation was like I was doing a conspiracy against him. One of the things. No, I did a conspiracy. There was no conspiracy. I mean, those who know me, I can believe that the other person felt I was doing a conspiracy. Subjectively, we can perceive so many things.
Conspiracy to do what? To undermine him?
To undermine, or to show him in a bad light, or to become myself like more prominent in the group. I don't know. Again, I don't want to project things, but for the things that had been said to me or to others, it seems like that was the case. And to be honest, that was not the case. I mean, I know that I was not doing a conspiracy. Me and other devotees who were also kind of mentioned in the list of conspirators, so to say. And
There's
we
other
were,
devotees.
Yeah, and we were all during that month suffering and crying together and talk and bewildered about what's going on and how to harm. Again, not to play the saintly people, but to be honest, that was my situation. And I have calls with him, and I was crying in front of him, and I asked him, I don't know what's going on. I'm willing to do what's needful to harmonize this situation, but also at the same time, I don't want to betray myself. No, if I start to feel there is abuse involved here, pastoral abuse of authority, manipulation, scapegoating, shunning, ostracizing, all the things start to come, lies, I won't subject myself to that in the name of submission and surrender. Because I know some people will say, you should surrender to your guru. What does it mean? I mean, what's guru? A guru has to be representing a certain... I will submit to truth. So for me, a guru is the personification of truth. If the guru stops representing the truth, at that moment, that's not Sri Guru manifesting in my life. And I won't submit to that. And I have experience from my previous guru in that connection, right? I mean, there was a guru representative who was a representative for much time, and then that stopped being the case. So I cannot give myself to this. That's going against my ideal. So anyhow, in the official note of rejection was that, like, I'm not willing to, I'm conspiring, and I'm like a disobedient disciple, and so on and so forth. But to be honest, I tried to obey everything I was told. But when some of the demands were abusive in terms of what I'm saying, of course I won't submit to that.
What would like an example of that be? Could you share something in particular, or no?
Yeah, no problem. And also some funny thing is that because at that time, before the rejection note, I was told by my guru at the time, he sent me a letter. That was the last personal communication we had. He told me, if you want to remain being my disciple, go to Argentina. And then this isn't a public letter. I wrote 50 pages, so it's not something private.
Yeah.
So he told me, I want to go to Argentina, and I have no more service for you for the time being. Like, basically exiled. And I was in North Carolina waiting for him to come there to meet with him in person and talk in person. And I was sent to Argentina. So, and of course, I was started to plan to go to Argentina. But I didn't go to Argentina like the next day because it was not in my plan, and I needed to organize myself. So many devotees say that the reason I was rejected is because I disobeyed the instruction of going to Argentina. And even if that would have been the case, it sounds a little bit too much if a guru rejects a disciple because you didn't follow my instruction of going to Argentina. It sounds like too much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I've done my research, and that's in my book, and almost there's no instance in Shastra of a guru rejecting a disciple. And you don't find even like, you find the qualities of why a guru should be rejected when this happen, but you don't find examples of why disciples should be rejected. It's interesting. Hari Bhakti Vilas Sanatana Goswami says why a prospective disciple should not be accepted, but once it's accepted, that's a different thing. Anyhow, even if you want to consider there are some exceptional cases, I will say the disciple has to have done something terribly horrible, extremely offensive for a guru to reject him.
Right.
So if you say, because you didn't go to Argentina, you were rejected, it's like, that sounds a little bit too much. But the point is that I was planning to go. But when I was planning to go, I was rejected in the midst of that. So I was rejected. I'm no longer a disciple of that person.
So
I don't need to go to her. I don't need to obey that instruction because I'm no longer, the ties have been severed. Right. So I stayed in the United States.
So he said, I want you to go to Argentina and basically not be active, like just be in Argentina in a kind of like solitude type of situation. And then before anything else could happen, followed it up with basically you're rejected.
Yeah, that was like 2 days after that.
2 days after?
Yeah.
Because
I didn't reply to that email because it never was like an invitation for dialogue. It was just like, if you don't go to Argentina, you stop being my disciple. So at that point, I felt already like disconnected and distant, and that's why I wrote in a Facebook group private we had, like due to certain circumstances that happened, I'm taking a distance from the mission and from Tripurari Swami, because he was sending me to Argentina. That was a clear distance, although I was not rejected at that time. It's a distance, and I'm taking it. The distance was already.
And you expressed it in a private.
I put that, and the message was deleted. So I felt like, okay, I cannot express myself in my family, in my group.
Yeah.
But at that time I was the public representative of him. So I was traveling and he himself presented me as such. So it would have been weird for the rest of the family if I would like disappear suddenly in Argentina and stop being the representative. So I just sent a message to clarify, I'm leaving. I mean, not leaving the mission. I'm taking a distance, and if someone wants to know more, you can contact me privately.
Yeah.
And the message was deleted once and twice, and then I was deleted from the group myself.
So an admin of the group deleted your message repeatedly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around the social media piece of this is so bizarre to me because you're expressing things. I'm trying to understand if you're expressing things in a private Facebook group, that to me is like analogous to like an internal, like something within your family, your spiritual family.
Yeah.
But then the next thing, like this is what, if I'm understanding this, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but if I'm understanding correctly, the next thing that happens as far as your former guru, that happens not in this private group, but that happens in a open public forum.
Yeah, because after I was deleted a few times, then I was deleted from the group. I was the admin of the group at one point. Then I was off, no more the admin, no more a member. So I contacted privately the new admin and said, why you keep deleting my messages? I want to notify my family about my sudden absence now. And because if this is not happening, I will have to make this public, and I don't want this to go public. I had been a whole month going back and forth and struggling in private with this situation, trying not to share that with anyone because I didn't want to disturb anyone's faith. But at that point, it was like, if you don't allow me even to share that with my family in this private group, I have to make it public, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So when I say that, a few minutes after came this public message of rejection from my previous guru.
Which I don't even know what we would analogize that to, right? Like, because it's so public that it's like, and again, to your point, like, is there any kind of historical example or precedent of this where like a guru would basically like, almost like issue like a public statement or a press release or something that like so-and-so is no longer my, like
taking this in another slightly different direction. I challenged Maharaj on this when it happened. I said, you didn't go to see him. This was all happening over internet and email.
Oh, that's so interesting. Where was your former guru geographically? It was a whole month thing. Again, it was the longest month of my life. Subjectively, it felt like 3,000 years.
Yeah. So it started, I was in Colombia when it started.
Okay.
It started with the publication of an article from another disciple of the guru, like presenting a different perspective on Bhakti regarding my book, but also criticizing me in certain way in that article. And that they took to a private Facebook discussion.
And he was in America at the time.
He was in America. I was in Colombia in a retreat. And then after that, it became so strange those first days that I canceled. I was planning to go to Mexico and then UK and other place, and I canceled all my tours, something I never did before, because I felt I cannot go on tour with this situation going on. I mean, I need to clarify, because I'm traveling representing this person, and now this situation is coming between me and this person, so I want to, between this, me and my guru, and I want to clarify. So I canceled everything. I went to Alachua. And I knew he was coming to North Carolina soon, so I was planning to go to North Carolina and meet him in person. But yeah, I didn't feel. And it was clear. I mean, before that, many times I asked him to go and visit him at this place he was staying, and he will not allow that.
Even post rejection, if he was there, to just go to where he was.
Maharaj. No, I wouldn't want to disturb that.
Well,
I think that would have been rude. I mean,
feel a little like an ambush or something.
I can imagine for him it was also difficult. I mean, I don't want to say he was just like celebrating or feeling nothing. Again, I don't know. I don't want to talk for him. But I know it was very hard for the whole Sangha. So it was so fresh. Imagine they are talking there, they're all affected by this, and I suddenly show up in the door. That would have been too much.
That could also be taken as like a kind of an aggressive move or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and I was also affected myself. I mean, it's not that I was like, okay, let's go and let's defeat them and tell the truth. I felt compelled to record the video I recorded that time and write the letter I wrote to clarify the facts, because so many false things were said in connection to me. But it's not that I felt like resentment or something like that. But it was difficult. Yeah,
the social media dynamics were really interesting, because right after Tripurari Maharaj wrote that he rejected Padmanabha Maharaj, I saw it, and devotees sent to me, and I felt impelled myself to write that I will always be his friend and I really like him, blah, blah. And then from that, some of the devotees there kind of unfriended me, like I was some enemy, or
unfriending,
like I was like an enemy or something.
Yeah, right. It's like now you're like you've picked a side or something.
Yeah,
it's like a divorce or something like that. Can I one tiny piece of this that's like almost like a side note, but I think it might be interesting, is that for those of us sort of outside of the fray, right? I think one interesting takeaway, or at least I'll speak for myself, is I think I have a tendency to like, maybe it's just to be like overly simplistic. It's like the grass is greener on the other side, as the saying goes, right? So I think I have a tendency to like idealize other sanghas, right? And it's like, because you see like the inside of your own sort of community, and you're like, oh, there's so much dysfunction and this and that, and but like look over there. And with I have to say,
it happens
this particular sangha that we're speaking of, and the devotee was your former guru. For a while, I think there was a tendency, especially there, and I'll say it may seem a little like it is probably a little naive and superficial, but like even aesthetically, there's like a certain like beautiful aesthetic of that sangha, right? And there was there was something that was like, I think for some of us, we would like look and go like, oh, like they really have their act together, and like we're like, the kind of like bagging on your own thing.
Yeah.
And there was something, not to make light of what happened, but there was something very kind of eye-opening and sobering also about like, oh, like, every space has its struggles and its tensions and even its dysfunctions. And that's not a put down of Tripurari Maharaj, but that's just to say like, you never know like what's going on as far as dynamics that like could be really problematic and unhealthy on the inside, but on the outside you wouldn't know it, right? And so it was a kind of like sobering reminder of like, yeah.
And for me, the important thing here is, of course, first, as you mentioned, to acknowledge dysfunctional dynamics can be everywhere, and to normalize that, not to promote that, but to be realistic enough to not over-idealize what's going on the other side of the fence. But second, also to be able to do something about it, like to be willing to acknowledge, even in your own sangha, okay, there's this dysfunctional dynamic. Here we are lacking communication. Here we are lacking empathy. Here we are lacking human communication, touch, connection. So that I think that was something that was problematic in this particular case that happened with me. And again, unfortunately, there was not an addressing of that and a recognition we have a problem we need to address. It was just like, okay, let's take out the black sheep, so to say, and let's move forward. And it was interesting for me because after I was rejected, and of course, I didn't take it personal. That was good for me, although it was super painful and it was the most difficult chapter of my life. And I'm still processing as we were talking. But something that helped me not to take it personal, it was that so many weird false things were said about me that I knew that's not me. So it helped me like this is not about me. It's just about the role I'm playing that somehow becomes threatening to the other part for whatever reason. Maybe I have my own thoughts about that, but I may not go into the details. And so it's not about me. It's just about this particular situation I'm in, and I'm representing something that somehow is confronting or threatening something unresolved on the other side. So they feel it personal, but I really feel it's not about me. And after the rejection, for me, it was very eye-opening that different devotees I thought I was the first one rejected by my former guru, and I realized that I was not. There were a few others, and I didn't know them. So they started to write to me privately, like, empathizing with my situation and sharing, oh, I was also rejected. And again, not to play that person is, that guru is a monster. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing objectively to something that happened. And they share with me, like the, how to say, the unfolding of the sequence that led to their rejection. And it was very similar patterns to what happened to me. So for me, it was even more clear, like, okay, it's not about me. It's just like a pattern that has been repeated in the past. Every time someone happens to be in a certain position of some prominence, and there's some feeling of being threatened by that from other disciples, and the guru may be too partial to that disciple, and anyhow, the whole thing.
There's
like
like
that.
other dynamics that you became. Yeah,
and even everyone basically who supported me from that sangha also was kind of, I mean, the guru stopped talking to them. Also, it was not only me. So that's also what I'm talking here is not about me, but all other people were involved. But with me it was like the devotees of the sangha were not allowed to talk to me anymore. Basically.
So now 2 years it's been since then. Can you tell us a little bit about your thinking today about that, and as well as how it's changed your perspective of Guru Tattva and what you researched? I mean, this is something that came out recently, and I'm sure that was influenced. This was influenced by what you went through. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So 2 years. Yeah, it's a year and a half, almost 2 years. Yeah. So this has been a journey. In the beginning, I felt, again, I didn't feel it was personal, so that helped me not to take it like I'm such a bad person, terrible, this happening to me, why Krishna's chastising me, blah, blah, blah. And there was so much also mercy and shelter and inspiration coming in that moment. I could feel how Krishna was kind of making up for, like compensating what happened with so much mercy and shelter and connection and inspiration for me to not kill myself, probably. I don't know. I mean, I was not feeling suicidal. I'm just saying, in such a situation, you can get to very dark places. Fortunately, I never was like depressed, thrown there for the days, but I was affected, no? Although in the beginning, I didn't feel that much affected, and in time I realized, no, there are so many emotions that need to come and be expressed. So I start to contact that and to feel I was angry, I was sad, I was bewildered. I mean, one after another intensely. So I needed to go through that also. Yes. I didn't want to repress any of that, nor to become resentful, hateful, nor to be naive. Oh, nothing happened, let's go back. So it was a journey of contacting my emotions and going deep into my humanity, meanwhile receiving so much deep inspiration and mercy, and that's how this book came, Radical Personalism. I wrote that book like in a few months, and it was kind of, I won't say channeling or anything like that, but it felt very much like, and it was part of my process, it was part of my healing. And I remember some people even telling me, you shouldn't write the book in that state, you should wait to be more balanced to write. And I was feeling, I appreciate the advice, but I feel the opposite. I feel this state is inviting me to write. I mean, I'm healing through this. It's the therapy for me. And I don't think this is a book that is like just, like a vomiting of my trauma, so to say. You read it, it's like, what's going on with this guy? But if I felt there was something even beyond me coming through, and I wanted to. And that was at the same time that all this situation in East can happen also with Bhakti Vidyapurna.
Oh, right.
And so somehow similar patterns start to explode in the zeitgeist. So I felt, okay, for some reason, all this is happening now. So I try to, again, see the whole thing beyond my own situation and see a bigger picture. And say, okay, Krishna is orchestrating some things behind all this. I'm trying to keep that in mind. So, the book, I gave a series of lectures on radical personalism before the book, like 25, and that constituted the basis of the book. And then the book came, and and again, all this was healing for me. And unfortunately, then when the book was published and the lectures were shared, so many people resonated with them, like with no other lecture I gave before in my life were so like well received, so to say, interestingly. So that was a further confirmation that, okay, this has some purpose. All the situation has some purpose, and for some reason I have to go through this, and hopefully my testimony can help some other people, basically, right? So I was feeling happy for that, and at the same time trying to be at peace with my former guru, with my former sangha. Really, I really want to be a well-wisher of them. I want to be at peace to have a positive feeling. So, and I'm happy to say I am, even though I said a few things in a few minutes ago, which were objectively what happened. That doesn't mean that I'm like, I have animosity and hate. And as I was telling you the other day, if I meet them personally, I wouldn't have a problem to, hey, let's sit and have a conversation. No? Let's be humans and heal whatever needs to be healed.
Yeah.
So that on one side, and in connection to what say on Guru Tattva, there's a whole chapter in the book on Guru Tattva. It's called Issues and Tissues Between Guru and Disciple. And it's funny because I use the word tissues, thinking about more like layers, but I didn't realize that tissues also...
it's Kleenex, like a Kleenex. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I realized
that's what I thought about.
I realized that everyone was taking tissues from to clean your eyes after crying, which again, it's also applicable.
You have a great way with turns of phrase, by the way. I really appreciate that. It reminds me of like, we have a god brother, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who like coins all these like little phrases and little aphorisms. And
I have something with words, what to do. So sorry, in that chapter, there is lots of my experience being put there. I mean, I'm not talking about my experience in first person, but lots of what I went through is kind of shared there. And for me, the idea of Guru Tattva, of course, remains intact in the sense of I'm not against Guru. I'm not like, oh, I burnt out. I don't want to talk about Guru. I don't want to have a Guru. I don't feel I'm devoid of Guru, because also that's a thing. You know, I've had people writing to me like, Maharaj, so now you don't have a Guru. And I'm like, no, I don't feel that, but your Guru rejected you. Yeah, but I was rejected for actually no actual reason, or for not good enough reason, if you want to put it like that. So if that's the case, the individual who was representing Guru did that, but I don't feel Guru Tattva rejected me. Because if I was rejected for no reason, how much I can say Guru Tattva has been rejecting me, the Parampara, Sri Guru as a principle. So in that sense, I don't feel I'm rejected. I don't feel the disconnection. I don't feel like I'm plucked from the mercy channel. I don't feel it. I won't accept that, because my personal experience is shelter, mercy is there. No, not from a rebel place. I'm not rejected. I continue, but from a humbling place that came through all this experience. And of course, I'm open to connect with sadhus, and eventually, if Krishna wants to take shelter, receive mantra, I'm not in denial of that, but also I'm open if Krishna wants me to keep me in this liminal space that I am. And if that helps people and serves as a service to others, I'm also willing to be instrument of that. So, and Guru can come in our lives in so many ways also. I don't want to sound like abstract, but Guru is not only limited to one person, to your Diksha Guru. It can happen, Siksha, previous acharyas, other traditions. I mean, the Bhagavatam is speaking about 24 gurus, the earth, the water.
Yeah, some of whom are not human. They're like, not right.
So ultimately, Guru is a principle of divine revelation. No? So if one is properly aligned as a student and a disciple, one can derive Guru Tattva from everywhere. I'm not saying I'm in that position, therefore I don't need anyone. I'm not trying to say, but at the same time, there is a place to say that. Because also I can have my own Guru, and as I told you many times, it would have been easy for me to have a Guru quickly again, if it's just to fit in. Okay, I have my Guru, I'm legal now. You cannot tell anything. And people were right to me. Even the first day I was rejected, that was so bizarre. One of the most bizarre things. That the rejection in itself was bizarre, but then people writing to me that same day, like people from the Read Big group, like, Maharaj, can you feel that Srila Prabhupada is calling you now? Or like, Maharaj, you have a tilak that resembles that of Nityananda Paribar. Have you ever thought about joining us? And I was like, this is bizarre. I mean, I was
Like
just
headhunters come out. They're
I'm
like,
going-
we hear you're on the market.
I'm gonna full disclosure. I'm going to admit, it wasn't the day of, but
Say it.
Marge, it wasn't the day of.
I know what you are going to say.
But it was like.
You see how
weeks
kind I
or
was
months.
that I didn't mention that myself.
It wasn't it wasn't the day of. It was like weeks or months after, and I was like, Marge, ISKCON's nice. Marge.
You know, ISKCON today is a little bit different than you might have heard. You know, we made some.
And it still stands in a very playful and cheeky way. I continue saying that, but
there is something kind of like strange and bizarre to the point of being comical, like a kind of like you have to laugh at it, otherwise cry, of like just like how like the sort of, you know, it's like, oh, Padmanabha Maharaj is on the market, like,
he's on the market,
we better, you know, like people are writing to you. And
it's like if I got divorced today and you want to present me another lady a few hours after, like, I have to grieve.
It's like,
I have to go through my
give
own
me some space.
I need space. It just happened a few hours ago, so
but you know, and you know, I mean, we're sort of being playful about it, and you did mention like the first, I think you said the first day or the second day, like the that particular Ritvik organization wrote to you. As you know, we've been talking about Ritvikism lately, and one of the things that we've hit on is that aside from the sort of, you know, so-called like sort of philosophical arguments or like appeal to, you know, evidence that may or may not be there, we're very skeptical about it. A lot of, and some might even say the strongest sort of core thing that makes like Ritvikism compelling in the context of ISKCON is this sort of emotional appeal. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm the last person to want to like nudge you over to the Ritviks, believe me. I'm not a friend of them. They're not a friend of me. But if anyone that I can think of in terms of like, as a contemporary, could make a claim to that emotional sort of like, it's like, you know, you had this experience with your first, which we didn't even talk about, but you had this experience with the, you know, your first guru, and then now with this one, and in such a public way, and then it's like, yeah, on paper, that's a pretty compelling emotional case for a sort of Ritvikism, but that's not where you're going either.
No, that's not my plan. Just in case I'm clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I have friends who are in the Ritvik group, and I feel we have even given lectures recently together, not on the topic, of course, but yeah, I personally have different stance. So, although I can also empathize and understand emotionally from which place that conclusion came for some, although I don't want to talk for everyone or anyone, but I try to be empathic and understand instead of just saying, okay, they are like deviant or I disagree with them and that's it. But I always try to make an effort to connect to why people take one stance or this other stance, as they may, hopefully they do with me as well. But yeah, I get your point. But yeah, I never felt that will be an option for me, so to say.
And there's no Ritvikism outside of ISKCON, right? Like in terms of, is that correct? Or are there sort of people who subscribe to that?
I mean, I know that
in connection to other Gaudiya.
I know that after Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur passed away, they proposed that.
They did.
Some of his followers, not all. Some of his followers proposed. Srila Siddhar Maharaj mentions that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I've read that.
And he said like, no, that's not our line, so to say, he said.
So it didn't take.
Yeah, but the proposal was there. So like implying, sometimes it may come, right?
Do you feel that you would have had a different take on the whole thing if you weren't so, like...
What do you mean by the whole thing?
By the whole rejection thing. If you weren't so, I guess, based in like Shastra and knowing what Guru Tattva was. Because, you know, if you don't know what Guru Tattva is, or you just going by like Prabhupada letters or something, then the emotional response could be that, oh, okay, there's no such thing and we need to just take shelter of Prabhupada. But the whole Samasti Guru and Vyasti Guru thing, which you write about, which is something that is really important for all devotees to learn about, in case they might go through certain issues with their own gurus. Because I'm sure, I mean, everyone, you know, or many people go through such, maybe not to your extent of extreme situation, but any kind of situation might happen. Bumps in the road,
Yeah.
And that's something we you know, it's still such limited time, but like there's a whole other aspect to it which we didn't even get into.
Oh, by the way, the program's canceled. I just got word.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
That's why I was looking at my phone while I.
Oh, okay. All right. We thought we were on a little bit of a time crunch. Maybe we have a little bit more.
We don't
time.
have a time crunch now.
Okay.
But one of the things we didn't get into is you know, even apart from all this, but your sort of deep dive study of Shastra, and I mean, you're kind of, I don't want to embarrass you, but you do have a bit of a reputation as a pundit.
By Bodhayan Maharaj.
Bodhayan Maharaj was calling you Panditji, which, you know, I think it's very sweet, and it's definitely meant as a compliment. And so to Nam's point, I mean, I think that's a really good question, right? Or a really good observation of being so grounded in Shastra. And so then in a difficult situation where, you know, maybe it's not so clear what's going on the side of, you know, guru, but you're grounded in something other than just kind of the authority of one particular person or the way that one particular institution has interpreted things.
Like to be able to weather a certain storm, because you're rooted, you know?
Yeah.
Again, I will make any case for maybe in a pandit, for maybe in absolutely deep rooted in Shastra. Of course, it's relative in comparison to some practitioners are maybe more well schooled in that in comparison to others. I'm just starting my studies, but I like to study Shastra. Yeah, I feel that's grounding for me. It creates foundation. It gives perimeter to understand what's going on. I mean, that's what we are taught as Gaudiyas. Also, Shastra has to be your parameter to filter your experience, so to say. So although I have my personal experience, my pratyaksha, so to say, that's also understood in the context of revelation. So of course, knowing on some level at least what Shastra says in this connection, helped me a lot, gave me a broader picture, and of course didn't allow me, as you say, to take certain steps that I know this is not according to Shastra, at least in my understanding. So in that sense, it didn't create a problem in the sense that, okay, I cannot go for that one because I don't feel that's supported by Shastra. But at the same time, it gave a broader picture, and I, as you mentioned, I once admit, like the stance I took even with my two gurus in their unique situations was always I tried to do that based on Shastra in terms of, okay, Shastra says that, Shastra says, and you talk, and not to be theoretical, Shastra, but also with common sense and human sensitivity and practical application, because also in the name of Shastra, we can just take the book and take it out of context and justify the unjustifiable. So in my situation with my last guru, I was like, the stance I'm taking is based on the teachings I received from you, according to Shastra, and this is not fitting that, and I'm trying to keep my integrity and authenticity honoring you in the form of honoring your teachings and Shastra. And when that's not connecting, I'm trying just to point that out, and we are trying to have a conversation, although it was not possible to have that conversation in depth, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel that Shastra has helped me a lot, keeps helping me a lot, and keep a broader picture in terms of Guru Tattva. Yeah, Guru Tattva. That's why I say Guru Tattva is the most complex tattva to understand. I would say one of the most complex aspects is that, because we tend to go, okay, Guru is this particular individual, that's Guru.
Yeah.
No. That's not only that. That's not the whole thing. You have to have this, again, Samasti Guru, although it may sound, that's abstract, no, that's generic. Where's the person? But that's also an aspect of Guru Tattva. And God being the original Guru. No, in the Bhagavatam, Krishna is called Jagat Guru, the Guru of all Gurus. So also what's the role of God being a Guru in the heart of other people? I mean, it's not just unidirectional. This is only Guru. Sometimes we have a more like monochromatic idea of Guru Tattva. This is Guru. That creates problems. So the whole situation, brought me to a more nuanced understanding and relationship with Guru Tattva, which in the present moment, I may not be officially connected with one particular individual as my Diksha Guru, but that doesn't mean I have no Guru. And I know that for some people, it's like, what do you mean? Yeah, you have to accommodate that. Or sometimes when people ask you, who is your guru? Which, by the way, I don't think that's a very gentle question to ask to people.
Yeah.
Because it's something very personal and intimate. It's like, what's your social security number? Oh, no, thank you. So, but if someone asks me, it's like, okay, you have 3 hours to hear the answer or something. It's more nuanced.
It's complicated.
Because we may expect just one name.
Yes.
Right? And you ultimately, as Srila Siddhartha Maharaj will say, you're the guru that helps you, the most important guru is the one who helps you the most. In our tradition, we have this emphasis on Siksha Parampara also. But it's funny because when someone asks you, who is your guru? They are expecting that you reply probably with, who is your Diksha guru?
Yes.
So it's interesting because we say, oh, Siksha is more important. But when I ask you, who is your guru? Tell me who is your Diksha guru. So we have to integrate those things as well. Right?
A little bit of mixed messages there.
Sorry?
A little bit of mixed messaging there, right? Yeah.
Could you, guru issues are kind of common in our day and age. Could you kind of give like a brief advice, you could say, to devotees who might have gone 1, 2, 3, even gurus? Diksha gurus, yeah. And
4 or 5, I've heard a few cases even.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Wow.
Yeah.
Just, briefly explaining what advice, I'm sure you get that question from devotees who have gone through that. And what do you say to someone who comes to you and says, I've gone through different gurus, or I have a disagreement with my guru, or I don't like what my guru has done, or whatever guru issue might come. How do you explain?
Disagreement with gurus, really interesting.
Very interesting, super interesting, especially during COVID. Even whatever happened during COVID, that was another layer of complication.
Certain stances that some
certain
gurus took
stances that guru might, exactly,
somehow make the situation. If you don't do what he does, you are kind of not loyal to your guru, and start to become mixed thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that's
because I got messages from devotees like, I took my guru's picture off my altar. Because of his stance on COVID, whether it was
anti-vax, or whatever.
Yeah, don't say the V word, but no, because YouTube will still. I don't want to get a strike.
Yeah.
Please, Marge, enlighten us on that.
That's complex, right? Like human relationships are complex, and guru-disciple is a relationship. So for me, also it's important that. And I receive lots of those messages. Yeah, that's like I have this disagreement with my guru, my faith in him or her, just in case, or her, is being affected.
What's that?
That's another podcast. Or her, that's another podcast. But anyhow.
Yeah.
And it's complex because, of course, each situation is unique, it's very nuanced. And sometimes I'm even approached by people that I don't know. So I don't like to give light answers like, what you should do with your guru. I don't know who you are. I don't know who is your guru. Every situation is so unique with so many details, and I'm not aware of those. So I try also to be sensitive to that. But the problem for me is sometimes that disciples cannot talk with their gurus. Because you have a difference with your guru. Talk with him. Talk. Have a conversation. The problem is I cannot have a conversation. Okay.
I can't have a conversation because it's unidirectional. I can't have a conversation.
Whatever the case.
Right.
Whatever the case. Even because he's too busy, he doesn't have time, whatever.
Yeah.
You should be able to have a conversation with, and if it's not possible, some arrangement should be made for having a conversation with someone representing your guru that you trust, that you accept. And you as a disciple should in advance know that, okay, if I'm accepting this person as a guru, it will be made clear that I won't be having the chance to talk with that person very often, and I accept that or not, but I should also take responsibility for my choices as a disciple in that connection, because if not in time, you will feel the lacking. I need to interact and have a difference, as you say. There has to be a space to talk, as simple as it sounds. Let's talk. But in some cases, I cannot talk. So and again, it's delicate for me because I don't want to talk to the other person like indicating there's something wrong with your guru, because probably not. Maybe there's something wrong with you as a disciple, or maybe there's something wrong with both of you, or maybe there's not something wrong with any of you, but you just need to have communication. So
I mean, maybe it's sometimes, even I'm just thinking of other relationships. Sometimes there's something temporal. There's something in that particular time period where wires are being crossed, and you just need some time. You just need some space. You just need to clarify.
Yeah.
Right? It could be in other words, there could be so many things, just as in, like a married relationship or a relationship with a parent or a friend.
Yeah. Guru disciple is a type of marriage, if you will. In another way, it's a relationship. So some patterns are there. And I will also connect this with what we talked already before, that sometimes we over-idealize the guru, that sometimes it's taken for granted. Okay, my guru is a Nitya Siddha, for example, right? And the point is like, how do you know that? I'm not like challenging, but just asking how you know that someone is a Nitya Siddha. How can you prove the Nitya Siddha-ness of someone? It's not possible.
Right.
So it's just something that you accept, and it's okay if you want to believe that, or maybe you have a undeniable revelation, Krishna, okay. But many times it's just, okay, everyone says that, so I joined it. And it's okay, I'm not criticizing that. My point is, we take for granted, okay, Gurudev is Nitya Siddha, or is a Prema Bhakta, or is a Maha Uttam Bhagavat. So the point is, the implication there is, he cannot be wrong at anything.
Right.
And I will say, okay, of course there are gurus that are topmost pure devotees, and in that sense they are not wrong, in that they are fully surrendered, but they have also commit mild mistakes. I talk about that in my book.
Yes.
Like someone like Srila Prabhupada can be wrong about some things also. He can say something inaccurately, like, I don't know, on a technical level. I'm not saying he's wrong in his surrender to Krishna. In that sense, he's perfect. But in a technical sense, he may...
Someone misspeaks or says...
Or he may not be, as sometimes it's thought, Guru is omniscient.
Right.
No, Guru is not omniscient.
Guru is not omniscient.
That's not in Shastra.
Or he may be informed by an unreliable source and then repeat that, unreliable or inaccurate information.
Yeah. The important thing there is that the Guru is humble enough to be open to acknowledge that mistake and correct himself and move on.
Which Srila Prabhupada did.
Yeah. So that's the important thing for him, not so much that he's accurate in every single syllable he's pronouncing, so to say. But sometimes we as disciples project that like omniscient, all perfect. So whenever I have a difference with my Guru, it's like, he has to be perfect. I mean, everything that comes from him, I have to accept it. And so I must be wrong. And that then comes many times the guilt trip, the shame, the self-loathing.
Yeah.
I must have done some apparat. And sometimes the social circle is reinforcing that. Yeah, you are so bad that you feel like that. Do you have a doubt? That you have a difference? That you, instead of have a talk, let's have a conversation. Yeah, it's normal to have differences. Yeah, you can go through a faith crisis. It can happen.
Yeah.
Like normalizing these things instead of stigmatizing.
Yeah.
But sometimes we end up stigmatizing what we should be normalizing. And that can affect faith so deeply.
Yeah.
So anyhow, some thoughts. What do you think about it?
I mean, yeah, it's difficult. I don't know how I would react unless I went through. I mean, I've had my share of certain situations that I went through, but nothing to the extent that you've been through. But it definitely made me think about, like, hearing about your story made me think about things and try to think a little bit more deeper and understand Guru as a tattva is super important to learn.
Yeah,
that's actually the most subtle thing to, like, it's the hardest tattva to understand, but it's like subtle, really subtle as well.
Yeah, Guru as a tattva again is perfect and pure, and in the sense Krishna is the original Guru, perfect revelation, pure, and the individuals, the Vyasti Gurus who represent that current, if they are pure devotees, total, transparent, be a medium, as Prabhupada will say, okay, they will reflect that perfectly and purely. But we must agree that not all the representatives are on the same level. So in some cases, the representation will be, let's say, partial, and because in the scripture we learn also that gurus sometimes are Uttam Bhagavatas. Prabhupada will say that can be Madhyam Bhagavatas. He even say the Upadeshamrita, one purpose to Guru can be a Kanishta Bhakta. That's a particular statement. So the point is, of course, if the person is fully honest and surrender, the divine can manifest through that. We accept that. But the point is when some personal things get in the way of that revelation, and we have to make the difference, because if not, That's what when we over absolutize something that is abuse, for example. And then that happened, I remember, for example, with my first guru. Abuse happened, and somebody was like, whatever comes from the guru is absolute and perfect. So, and they were started to justify sexual abuse in all these weird ways. Like, no, it's like Krishna with the gopis playing like Madhuri, Rasa Leela,
realizing,
and the
things.
pure devotees giving mercy to them by touching them. And I was like,
Krishna.
come on, that's cultish. You are totally wrong. No, but that's the thing. Like everything that comes from the guru is absolute. No, guru tattva as a principle, samasti, that's pure, perfect, absolute. But how that's represented by individuals, it can or it cannot be absolute. So you have to develop some criterion for that, because if not, you just open the doors for abuse and cultish behavior.
I like how you said that at one point that person did represent the guru for me, and I got something very something very tangible and valuable at that time.
I don't want
but then that maybe that sunsetted or something, and now the sun appears somewhere else.
That's a nice way of putting it.
And I don't want to deny that at all. I want to be clear that I am grateful for that, indebted for that. With both my gurus, I received lots of my previous gurus. I received that, and in that sense, I consider them my gurus. No, I learned a lot. So what to do, what not to do, even as painful as that was, I'm indebted. I'm grateful. I take that, but also at the same time, as you say, okay, now the revelation is not coming now here from. So I need some other direction. But I'm not denying at some point the revelation may come again from those persons. Even though I may not be reconnected with them as a disciple, but I'm open, of course. I'm not saying they are damned for eternity and anything like that. I'm just saying, by the time being, this is not happening. And of course, in the scripture, it is said the disciple also should wait before taking a distance from a guru, not just rush. Oh, you did that, I'm running off. Krishna Bhajanamrita, this is said even the disciple can come to a guru if the guru is misbehaving and telling him, Gurudev, this is not supposed to be happening. You are doing something that is going against your own teachings. Please go back on track. That's said in Krishna Bhajanamrita. It's in the spirit of service to your guru. You should tell that.
This is Narahari
Sarkar. And I end up saying that to my first guru, and in some way to the second one also. Like, this is not what you are supposed to. There's a disconnect.
There's a dissonance.
This is not what you taught me. This is not correct. And I never would have thought me as a disciple having to offer that service to my guru, to say that in service to my guru. But I tried to do that in service to my guru. But unfortunately, I will say that one big, in my opinion, again, it's my opinion, my personal opinion. I'm not saying everyone should agree with that, but in my personal experience and opinion, in both these two cases, what happened is that eventually they were not willing to listen, unfortunately. I felt that they had no ears for peer review, for feedback. It was like, again, this type of like self-isolation into a certain hierarchical pyramidal peak when there is no place for feedback, not only from disciples, but even from peers.
Yeah.
So for me, that's delicate. For me, that's a big lesson.
It's a huge
After
lesson.
going twice, that in my situation, I was like, again, I want to have friends. Now you understand why I was traumatized when you said that on the first podcast.
Right.
I want to have friends. I need to have friends, because if not, I may lose contact with reality, and I don't want that.
For devotees who I see who are quite learned and I see they kind of tend to go to like the parivars. Does that attract you in any way?
What do you mean by parivars?
The traditional Gaudiya parivars.
Nityananda Parivar.
Okay.
To take Diksha there because it's the Diksha line, and I have
There's
a
certain kind of like solidness and certainty. I mean, there's no real certainty anywhere, but like
right. That's a whole
it
other
appears to be
conversation,
more.
but
Yeah. And just a technical clarification also, we also belong to a parivar.
Yes.
It's called Bhakti, not parivar. That's how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Although, of course, the other parivars may not agree with us calling that in that way, because sometimes the argument is that a parivar means like family.
Yeah.
So a parivar is mostly taken as coming from direct associates of Mahaprabhu. Nityananda Parivar, Gadadhar Parivar, Advaita Parivar, so on. So we say Bhaktivinoda Paribar, which chronologically doesn't fit like, okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not physically there, although of course Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will make the case he's a Nityasiddha and so on and so forth. And my point is that also we have Paribars like Narottam Paribar or Shyamananda Paribar, and they were not direct associates of Mahaprabhu either. So just to make that point that sometimes we use Paribar in certain way, but there's different uses to that. So in that, from that place, there's place for us, at least in our faith, to call it Bhaktivinoda Paribar. So going to your question, well, when that happened after my second guru rejected me, I was open. In one sense, I was open in the sense of, okay, whatever Krishna wants from me, whatever Shraddha Devi is calling me, I also want to not be like limiting how the revelation wants to come to my life. I don't want just to project, I want this to happen this particular way. So I was open if something may need to happen in another, even Paribar. I was not like thinking about that, like, okay, now I'll go to traditional Paribar, go to Radha Kunda, I will get my whatever, Siddha Pranali, I will get initiated. I had no plans again. My whole life just collapsed. So I couldn't think even what I will do tomorrow. So I clearly was not thinking, so what to do now, whom to get initiated from. But in time I was open. I felt like, okay, if Krishna wants me to connect with the traditional quote unquote Paribar, if the call is evident and clear, I don't want to also deny that. But that wouldn't ever mean that I'm rejecting my connection with the Bhaktivinoda Paribar, because by the time I was almost 23 years connected with Bhaktivinoda Paribar, especially through Srila Prabhupada and Srila Siddhar Maharaj, because my two gurus were both of them disciples of Prabhupada and then connected with Srila Siddhar Maharaj. So that's my clear DNA. Yeah. No? So that's something that I cannot deny, and I don't want to deny ever. So my thought was, okay, if some connection comes from another Paribar in a way that honors my DNA, I'll accept that. But only if that's the case. No? And it has to be very clear and evident. And again, I was not in a rush, so open. So the time passed, and I contacted some members of different Paribars, not again doing guru shopping, but just having sadhu sangha, visiting India. I was not doing guru shopping, but also I was not closed and in denial, like, I won't talk to anyone yet. But not in this, maybe this is my guru, maybe not in that spirit, but just associating with sadhus. So I connected with different ones, and there was one particular Babaji from one particular traditional Paribar that I have some contact for some time already in the past. And there was some openness to what may happen in that connection eventually, but not in any particular way. But eventually we had a conversation, just to give an example, in connection to his opinion on the Bhaktivinoda Paribar, and more from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur onward. Right. And he told me that he considered that it was not bona fide, that we couldn't attain them.
Do you want to mention his name?
No need for that. It's okay. Why you want me to mention the name? Just asking. You want further clicks in the clickbait?
No, Maharaj. We're already 1 hour 53. Whoever stayed on for this long, they're...
Thank you for staying so long with all of us. Yeah, and in one sense also his stance is kind of representative of the stance of most other. But
that wasn't necessarily surprising or shocking to you that he...
No, I already hinted it will go in that direction, and I appreciated his sincerity in being clearly bold. Yeah, that's my opinion. No, and I don't think that you can attain the ultimate gift of Mahaprabhu in that particular line. No? And I was like, what? But I know that different personalities in that line, in this lineage that I belong to, attain their perfection and they reveal their Siddha Swarup and so on. He said, I don't believe that's true. So it's okay. I say, okay.
Going a little further, that he won't reinitiate people unless they are, he won't reinitiate people from Paribars. He'll reinitiate people from Bhaktisiddhanta's line because the line's not legitimate.
Because in his view, they were not part of a legitimate line. So he is able to, but like someone who was coming from what he considers a legitimate line, he wouldn't.
Yeah,
because that will be
that would be
considered
a breach of
transgression of
And
etiquette.
again, this is this is one case, but I know that many other things like that, and I'm not saying that condemning them. I can also go back in history and try to be empathic of how understand what happened and how strongly both were with one another, not one single part, but the two of them.
Right.
I'm really, again, I'm a 9 in the Enneagram, so I'm a peacemaker. I like to reconcile and to create harmony and dialogue and conversation. In this particular case between traditional Paribars and Bhakti-Vinod Paribar, I have faith. Hopefully in time something may happen, but it may take some time in my personal experience.
Like what would happen?
Like having some more appreciation for each other instead of thinking like
that
you are
rift
not
will
bona
be-
fide and
yeah.
the other one saying you are not bona
It's
fide.
silly.
And I have hope and I have connection with people in other Paribars who are friends of
It's
mine.
also relative, like in the grand scheme of things, it's relatively recent history. So
Yeah.
it may take
Yeah.
several generations.
Yeah.
right?
Is it?
I mean, we're talking about like what? Like in terms of specifically the critiques of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati
Yeah,
Prabhupada.
yeah,
We're
it's
talking
like-
about like into the like 19th,
One
20th
century, yeah.
So that's not, relatively speaking, that's not
Yes.
huge, right?
Yeah, so we may need some healing and grieving and conversation. That may take a few generations, but meanwhile we're trying to do all of
I
this.
don't see that happening because it's the basis of the claim is that your line or your guru is not legitimate.
Yeah, of course. My point
And that's
is,
going to be the
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be the basis of their thinking of who we are.
so my point is until and unless that's not changed,
Okay.
I understand that there may not be too much progress in the conversation, but hopefully if that has to happen again,
Yeah.
one may change one's mind and learn to appreciate the bona fideness of the lineage and vice versa in both directions, and that's another thing. But my point is when I had this conversation, going back to my situation, okay, I also, it helped me to even be more clear about, no, I'm really committed to Bhakti-Vinod Paribar. No, that's my DNA, and I was open to be connected with sadhus from other lineages if they will appreciate Bhakti-Vinod Paribar, and I'm still open, but a stronger call came to, the connection with the line that descends through Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. That's kind of my blueprint, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So it helped me to define more. In my particular situation I'm in now, still liminal space on some level, but if something is clear is that I belong to this particular current, dhara, this descending current, and I feel so identified with that and how it also interacts with the West and how it adapts Krishna consciousness in a relevant way for everyone, and it's not only in terms of adapting for the West, but just to make it relevant and ongoing and deep and dynamic. I really identify with that.
Unrelated, it kind of reminds Jagadananda Prabhu. It reminds me of him when you say Bhakti-Vinod Paribar. Is Lalit Prasad Thakur a part of that, or?
I don't want to speak for them, but I wouldn't say they will call themselves Bhakti-Vinod Paribar. I think they will call themselves Nityananda Paribar,
Yes.
Okay.
acknowledging
my
Bhakti-Vinod Thakur's
understanding too.
initiation
Yeah.
with Bipin Bihari Goswami.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Although they are a disciple of Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, they will
Yeah.
speak in terms of Paribar in connection to the Nityananda Paribar. The term Bhakti-Vinod Paribar came from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah.
And as we know, there is some difference between these two brothers, so to say, right?
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not someone who will get like passionate about trying to make them like, I mean, I respect both and they're
Right.
above my head, even if I have differences like with Jagadananda Prabhu, that we were friends and we had lots of conversations and he even endorsed my first book and so on. But at the same time, we had differences. And for me, that's nice.
That
I mean,
is
that's
nice,
beautiful
yeah.
too. Okay, I really disagree with you on this
Yeah.
and this and this. But at the same time, I appreciate you and I can agree with you on so many other things. And sometimes I feel we don't have too much that capacity of not only, okay, let's agree that we disagree, but even like, let's love each other despite disagreement.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
even more challenging.
That's, I mean, I mentioned this in another context also, but that's one of the things that I really appreciate from our Diksha Guru, Guru Maharaj. And I've heard him call that, like he likens that to like, that's like the Vrindavan mood, that you can sit and have loving exchanges and have genuine friendships
Yeah.
across differences, and also which, I appreciate is equally important, and also kind of proverbial at the end of the day, sort of return to your parivar, return to your home, return to your family, just as sort of at peace and faithful, right? And those things aren't in conflict.
Yeah.
Totally. I remember when I met with your Guru Maharaj last year, as I told you, I went to give him one copy of my book. I thought, well, I will be 10, 15 minutes. I don't want to take his time. And we ended up like 4 hours because he told me, tell me your story. And I was like, Maharaj, that's a little long. You have time? Yeah, I have time. So we sat and we started to share. And he will share his own story. And there were so many interesting parallels and things that he went through. So he will make it so relatable. It was beautiful. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with that idea, even of disagreements in eternity. Like I like to say sometimes, for example, the Buddhists in Vaikuntha will say Narayan is God and Krishna is an expansion of Narayan. And they have their that opinion in the spiritual world. So
that's an eternal opinion.
You cannot say they are wrong.
Right.
That's in Vaikuntha.
Right.
So you have to accommodate that. Or even in Golok, I don't know, Jashoda wants Krishna at night to have a very deep sleep. But Radha and the gopis don't want that. They want him to escape and join them in Rasa Leela. So
they literally want different things.
Yeah, but they love each other.
When
you read the descriptions of Yashoda's love for Sri Radha and vice versa, it's like, wow, they love each other and they deeply disagree on that point.
Yeah.
So for me, that's, as you say, ultimately that's the Vrindavan mood. And if you want to enter the Vrindavan mood, you have to start to enter there. Here, by how we relate with each other and how we learn to love each other despite disagreements, or even because of disagreements. The disagreement will add a certain spice to the masala of loving each other, right?
Yeah, I love the word. I've heard you use it a couple of times. The word accommodate. We have to accommodate. I love that word, because even just the imagery of like we have to make room. We have to reconfigure. Right? Like it so much cuts against the idea of the kind of like rigid, static furniture mentally that we've built up. It's like, no, we've got to move things around and shift things because
that's what love is about. Love is all accommodating. I like when Rupa Goswami says, Ahiri Bhagati Premna Sabhava Kutilabha, but he said love moves in a crooked way like a snake. So we can say different things like, okay, it means that love is unpredictable. It doesn't move in a straight line. So you have to be open for everything. But Srila Siddhar Maharaj explained that line saying, in terms of accommodation, say love moves like a snake because on its way, it's like incorporating and including everything and integrating everything and accommodating everything.
Yeah.
It's all accommodating. So again, if we want to reach that platform, we have to start here and now to integrate and accommodate. And accommodate also means sometimes I have to take a healthy distance.
Yes.
It's not just superficially, sentimentally, all is one in that sense, but sometimes I need to accommodate you at a distance. But I put you at the distance so I can appreciate you from that distance. No, that's what Rupa Goswami says in Upadishamrita when he describes, you love God, you have friendship with the devotees, you are compassionate with the newcomers, and you take some distance from the envious people. And all those relationships are done in service.
Yeah.
In service to you, I love you, I worship you, I am friends with you, I take a distance. But all that is part of seva.
Yeah. The underlying emotion is the same, or the underlying root. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so dynamic. I love that. It's so dynamic. It's so having this opportunity to converse with you, reading your writing, hearing your lectures. I have to say it, like that dynamism comes through, and it's like it makes bhakti exciting. It's like, it's an adventure. I want to be on this adventure. Yes, it has its bumps, it has its challenges. I'm not trying to make light at all. No. Those are real also.
That's part of the adventure.
It's part of the adventure.
Part of the journey. So that's why I felt comfortable talking about anything of the things we've talked, not in terms of let's talk about this or that, but let's accept everything, not resist anything. It's all part of the adventure. Painful, traumatic, joyful, beautiful. It's life. Life happens, and I also agree totally that life is a spiritual journey should be an adventure. I mean, Krishna is called Urukram. Urukram means the great adventurer, the one who takes very bold steps.
Wow.
So it's translated as adventurer. So you want to relate with someone who is an adventurer by nature.
That's cool.
You have to be an
that. That's cool.
adventurer.
That's
So,
really cool.
so yeah, that's what gives me hope to keep this ever evolving, ever expand. That's a new book I'm writing now, that how love and God and us is in constant expansion and growth, and the importance of seeing reality and seeing practices in constant state of evolution and growth, in terms of like a fixed substance that this is it. No, it's a constant movement. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
So we can live life and our Bhakti project from that spirit. That's more sustainable, more charming, more beautiful.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Namrasa.
Thank you so much.
As always, it's been a pleasure.
Fifth time now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's
5.
10 more times.
Do you have your punch card? We'll
Yeah. After 10, you get a free haircut.
I had it yesterday.
There you go.
We'd like to thank Swami Padmanabha Maharaj for joining us on the Namras podcast. Please check out his book, Radical Personalism. I'll put the link
Available
in the description. Available on Amazon.
On Amazon.
And also he has the other book, the Inherent or Inherited, Bhakti and the Jiva. That's also another book you can get by him, and he's writing more books, as we know. If you'd like to see his lectures, you can find his YouTube channel, link that, Facebook page, everything streamed there. And please like, subscribe, and comment to the Namras podcast so we can continue doing this podcast and speaking to wonderful devotees and guests like Maharaj.
Sadhus.
Sadhus.
From all ashrams.
From all ashrams.
Thank you.
The broad term. And Venkata, as usual, thanks for being part of the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Okay. Haribo.
Hare